Welcome, beautiful friends. Did I scare you? I'll try that again. Welcome, beautiful friends. We are continuing our deepening of lesson number 8, dropping pebbles into the pool of awareness. I just got back from a 12-day or 10-day pilgrimage with the JM and the Way of Mastery crowd in Maui, and all I got to say is wowie. You know, Maui's the heart chakra for the earth. If you ever get a chance to go there, you will be nestled in love, or you will get back on a plane and leave as quickly as possible. Whichever kind of works for you. So tonight we're going to continue our deepening of this lesson. For those of you who weren't here last week, real quick, he's using the symbol that the truth of our nature is limitless awareness, and that we are all creating our experience by what thoughts, beliefs, experiences we choose to drop into the pond of our awareness. For instance, if you're dropping an unworthy, I'm unworthy, I'm unworthy. You know, many of us for 40 years have been chunking I'm unworthy pebbles into our pond. Those all create ripples which create experience and go out and interact with all the ripples of everything else. So our experiences are the effect of the pebbles that we drop in our pond, or the pebbles that we let everybody else come and throw in our pond. So he's encouraging us here to, the first axiom, which we'll get to in a moment, is to take responsibility for what it is that we're experiencing, because it's only the result of what we have chosen. There is no source outside of us. When he began the pathway in the first lesson, he talked about ought, should, must, and have to. Extricating those from our consciousness, because all those infer that there's some authority outside of us that we have to do something, or we ought to do something, or we need to do something. And he's trying to bring us back into the sovereignty of our being as Christ, that there is no outside authority, that the authority of Christ or our God presence is within us. So just look within your consciousness at how many times you feel like you have to do something. Cindy and I were having this conversation today about someone that really felt like they had to do something or else. You know, that's just the way the ego grabs us in fear. So just take a look at that. You ready for the axioms, honey?
I am created as my Father created me to be. I am free, and nothing sources my experience but me and each moment. Nothing has an effect on me whatsoever, save that which I choose to allow to affect me. I need do nothing. I do not live any ordinary moments. With each breath, my experiences are the stepping stones laid before me of God to guide me home. Therefore, I will bring awareness to each moment and allow it to teach me how to forgive, how to embrace, how to love, and therefore how to live fully. The only relationship which holds any value at all is your relationship with God, your creative source. And the keys to the kingdom: desire, intention, allowance, and surrender. The definition of love: love allows all things, accepts all things, trusts all things, embraces all things, and is therefore transcendent of all things.
Before I get into that, I almost forgot. Halloween's in a couple days. This is my costume. What do you think? Orange for Halloween? Looks good, huh? Yeah, cool. Here we go. Okay, number 1 tonight. Nothing has an effect on me. Energy does not move within your being without a choice. You cannot experience an emotion without there being a choice that precedes it. That's really not been most of our experience because we're unconscious to the choice. Something happens, there's an almost instant response, we're overcome with an emotion, and we mistake that the emotion is because what has happened outside of us. The more you awaken, the more you will recognize that there's a choice that happens, and that energy cannot move through you without a choice. So awakening brings us to that conscious point. So recognize whenever you're feeling something, whether it's anger or joy or anything in between, somewhere within your being, maybe unconscious to you, you have made a choice to allow that. That goes back to nothing's creating your experience but you. So when I started to recognize and be willing to take that level of responsibility, I couldn't blame Cindy anymore for me being mad or me feeling an emotion I didn't want to feel. I had to look at it and go, wow, she might have done something, but if we use our waking up to the movie symbol, that's kind of on the screen of my consciousness. I'm at choice for how I react to that, just like we are in the movie theater. And this is all really just one big expression of that kind of holographically. So I began to uncover what is it that I believe about Cindy's or someone else's behavior that I am obligated, morally, socially, value-wise, ethically, whatever, to react in a certain way. And I began to uncover all kinds of manner of unconscious beliefs that were driving my conscious experience. So the more we uncover those and go, wow, Cindy might have called me an asshole, but I can still be enjoyed. It doesn't matter. I don't have to be offended. I don't have to take it personally. And I'm not saying she did that more than, 100 times. It's nice to be back, honey. But you begin to uncover, you begin to make conscious all those things that you allowed to be chosen out of your conscious awareness. And you begin to see how those choices were slanted towards power being outside of us so that we could actually have this authentic experience of separation. Because if we were all sovereign and we're all awake to what our experience is, we wouldn't be a victim of what's happening out there. We would be at choice about it. You still might choose to get angry, but you would recognize it's your choice. It's not because of something that happened outside of you. Number 2, I need do nothing. Doing is the action of the ego. I don't know how many people come to me and in a few 15, 20 minutes, they're like, God, it's so simple. It's just so simple. It's actually too simple to do because being just is. It's only the action of our mind so desperately rooted in not truth that thinks it has to do something to arrive at truth, and it's actually paradoxically perpetuating the problem. Because we're operating on this belief that we're not whole, we're not one with God, we're not awake, whatever it is. So then we set out to do things to become what we already are. So just look within your consciousness how much energy goes into doing. And some of our most sacred idols are our spiritual practices. I have seen seasoned meditators lose their shit because they can't be in their meditation schedule. Now, something's not really working there. If meditation is about coming to peace, but now you've made such an idol of it that if you miss it by 10 minutes or someone walks in, your peace is destroyed, there's no real peace there. It's just another smoke screen that has been created by the personality self to kind of distort things. So just look at how much energy goes into doing. The truth of it is, God is, creation is, and none of us are doing a damn thing about it. We're the effect of creation, not cause. Number 3, to guide me home. Boy, at some point you got to recognize guiding me home is part of the problem. We start there on this seeming journey to home. And there's a lot of energy around spirituality and a lot of New Age, some ascension. Like this isn't part of heaven. Now, Jeshua made it very clear 2,000 years ago, heaven is spread over the face of the earth, yet we see it not. And there's a lot of energy in spirituality about getting out of here. I can't wait to get out of here. I can't wait to leave. I can't wait to go to heaven. I can't wait to be formless spirit or whatever it is. That is totally and completely missing the whole point. It's about waking up to our divinity within and embodying that and expressing it here in this realm, which is a realm within heaven. Jeshua said, my Father's house has many mansions. Well, we're in one. And it can be as joyful as any other mansion in our Father's kingdom. There is nothing inherently flawed about the third dimensional domain. It actually is one of the richest in terms of having an incredible breadth of experience that's available. It's from very dark, dense energies to very, very light ones. So it's not about after you get rid of the body, and the body's not bad either. Number 4, values. If we go back to what I was talking about earlier, all your must, shoulds, ought to, and have tos, if you look at those and you begin to dig underneath them, you're going to find values. And they'll come up and it'll say, I'm supposed to pay my taxes. Well, I mean, that may be the accepted norm, but who said? I mean, if you really start questioning where the values you seem to be operating from that start to drive your behavior, you'll begin to recognize those were largely adopted from others. And your beingness is being driven by a bunch of values. He talks extensively in the Course in Miracles about looking at what your values are, and that we value the valueless. Other people's perceptions is a big one. Who here values other people's perceptions? Or your perception of what their perception of you is? I mean, we do that kind of stuff all the time. That's a valueless value. It's absolutely valueless, an extraordinary waste of time and energy. The keys to the kingdom: desire, intention, allowance, and surrender. Allowance is forgiveness. If you're struggling to forgive someone, try, I allow them to be as they are. That's forgiveness. You don't have to condone what their behaviors are to allow them to be as they are. But can you truly allow them to be as they are without a need to change them and without allowing your state of being to be affected? That is forgiveness. And it's a lot easier than trying to forgive them if you're holding values that seem to contradict the values that they're holding. Because the ego wants to get into some, we agree. Two people can really not like each other and be in perfect forgiveness, because they allow each other the fullness of experience without the need to change them. So many people misperceive forgiveness as supposed to mean everybody's happy and everybody gets along. I can be in peace in this world because I forgive the world. I allow it to be as it is without the need to have to change it, without the need for it to be any different than it is. And love allows, accepts, trusts, and embraces. The vast majority of time when people hear this, the ego's like, that sucks. That's not cool at all. You mean I got to accept a cancer diagnosis, or I have to accept? So the body, mind, the ego obviously goes to kind of what it doesn't want to accept. But love allows all things. That means it includes the miraculous. It includes instant healing. It includes abundance beyond our wildest friggin' expectations. It accepts all things. So just take that, trust and embrace this. Take that and just for a while contemplate the upside, if you will, rather than what the body mind's like, oh my gosh, I'll just sit like a log on the couch and be like a doormat to life. That's not at all what awakening is. But just look at that, because we hold pretty limited beliefs when we hear that definition of love, rather than recognizing that it's really saying love is freedom, period, and will eternally be transcendent of all seeming things. So just look. You have a question?
Can you speak to trusts?
Can I speak to trusts all things? Of course. You want it generically, or do you have a specific question?
No, just generically.
Well, I'll speak to it from my state, my experience. Love in its infinite expression, God in its infinite expression of infinite possibilities, trusts as an expression of its very self, of our one self, that all energies within infinite possibilities are okay. So there's no part of creation that needs to separate itself. That's what this separate little thinking mind wants to do. So when I see things that the world might deem as bad, I trust that there's divine providence woven in everything. He talks about it in the Course in Miracles. All things are happening for good. Not the things that I think are happening together for good. All things.
So it's like allows, accepts, trusts, embraces are all synonymous.
You bet. They're all really saying the same thing. But what he's trying to do here is point towards their expression, how it is lived. Ultimately, love is a mystery. Freedom is a mystery. How this consciousness happens, awareness happens, and we have this infinite variety of freedom and experience within it, that's beyond any mind's ability to figure out. That's why science loves so much the specific, and they shy away from the quantum world because it can't be defined. So trusts, and in Yeshua's case, being pinned on the cross was his biggest expression of trust. Now clearly he's still very alive and very active and extending this and many other pathways to us. And in my own experience, there were experiences in my life which I had always judged as bad and had used to blame away my experience and justify my being an asshole for the 100 times that I deserved it, whatever else. And we hide behind that oftentimes. Rather than recognizing, in my own awakening, I came to see the absolute perfection of how those things, in the way that they happened, in the order that they happened, brought me to the realization of being. Without them, I probably would have been kicked back as a happy, fat ego and not had enough desire to fully evolve or to wake up, so to speak. So it's easy when it's way out there. But when it gets really close, and even when we experience it within, to live this definition. So love allows the ego. Love accepts the ego. Love trusts the ego. Love embraces the ego. And therefore, and only therefore, is love transcendent. When you stop resisting your resistance, you're going to be backing into a transcendence which has always been there. So I hope that helps. The Lord's Prayer, we'll do this twice tonight. Once Jeshua channeling through JM, and the second one our beautiful friend Jen Stackpole.
Awun, the Washmaya, Nita Kadash Shama, Tete Malkuda, Neve Asivinach, Akina, the Washmaya, O Baraha, Haulan, Lachman, Sunkanan, Yamana, Boshwoklan, Halpin, Akina, Dapanan, Shwakin, El Hayabin. Ula talan el mission, el pasan membisha. But all the lachim el kuta, uhaila, utish bokta. La alam, amin, amen.
Abunde boshmaya, Nita kedash shama, Tete makuta, Nwere savianek, Kanada boshmaya of Barahar. How long lachma desunkan in Yamana? Washwoklan habein, Aikana dafpanan. Shwaken el hayabein, Ula talan. Condestiona e la person min bisha metal de la kimakuta uhaila utishbokta la alam. Amen. Amen.
Jen's voice is just beautiful. Okay, honey, you ready?
One of the pebbles that has been dropped into the field of your awareness, and this is generally true for virtually everyone involved in the third dimensional experience called physicality, one of those pebbles is this. Imagine a sentence being dropped from a vast height, picking up speed until it strikes the still pool of your awareness and sends a ripple out, creating a vibration through you. And the sentence is simply this: it is not possible for me to have complete mastery over which pebbles are dropped into my awareness. I'm at the mercy of the vibrational field set up by the ripples of all the thoughts and webs of relationship in which I swim constantly.
So this is really kind of the pre-incarnation thing. In our vast pool of infinite stillness, we drop a pebble which says we're not the creator of our experience. We do not have mastery over our experience. We are subject to the thoughts and the experience and the vibration of things around us, and then we kind of incarnate into that expression. I mean, I know everyone here has experienced the absolute distress at seeming to have zero control over your ass-kicking mind. Just, it'll get a lot of energy behind it and it just runs away from you and you feel completely helpless. That's the effect of this pebble dropped in your pond, and he's talking about from a vast height, so it's picking up speed. So just as I said, welcome, beautiful friends, you'd been sitting there for a minute quiet, and whoa, that kind of startles you. He's saying it had a profound effect on the nature of what you were. It was so startling to the truth of what you are, because it kind of rips in there and sends waves, rippling out. But we all believe this, don't we? Largely. But it's because we believe it and we continue to effectively drop pebbles of victimhood. And I hear it in spirituality too. You start to wake up, you get a bit more open, you start to feel more. So you still think you're a victim to what it is you're feeling. Rather than recognizing because of your awakening, you've now become a welcome mat for lower vibration energies to simply transition. But you're still at cause about what your perception and experience is of what's happening. But because we still carry into the beginnings of our awakening this victim mentality that we're not responsible, that we don't have complete mastery, our experience seems to continue to still be being affected by things that are outside of us. In truth, that's absolutely impossible. So we deepen our awakening. We keep looking underneath that how those energies are allowing us to change our state of being, rather than returning to the awareness of we're this infinite pool in which all ripples are welcome to come and go. They don't change the nature of the pool itself, unless we keep dropping the same pebbles in over and over and over and over.
That perception is absolutely true, as long as you choose to believe it. That perception or belief is absolutely laughable and powerless as soon as you choose to accept that this is so. What's the point of that? It's simply this. If you would choose to awaken wholly, if you would choose not just to be a wave that has mysteriously arisen from the ocean, if you would choose to be more than just another soul that has arisen from the mind of God and is somehow crashing about through the universe, it is absolutely necessary to own, as your own, the pebble that drops into the still, clear pool of your awareness with the thought, I am the one who chooses the effects I experience. I, alone, interpret all neutral relationships or experiences. I, alone, place the value upon objects, things, thoughts, belief systems. I alone am the literal creator of my moment-to-moment experience.
So that's what the difference between being sleeping and being awake. If you're asleep, You're a victim to your own thoughts and the seeming thoughts and experiences and actions and behaviors of everyone outside of you. To be fully awake is to be absolutely 100% responsible for your state of consciousness. Period. Not anyone else's. Yours and yours alone. They're responsible for theirs. So, for instance, he talks in all his pathways that all events are neutral. All events are neutral. We're placing the values that we've learned from others and in the world, and we're coloring the filter. We're putting a filter between what's happening in our experience, and then the experience shows up through that filter and creates an experience within us. When he said the scales will fall from your eyes, all the filters disappear, you recognize it's a neutral event, I'm at conscious choice about what my experience of that's going to be. There is no inherent value in anything. If I were to put a photograph of a gun up there, many may have a very negative reaction. Others would have a very positive reaction. There's no truth in either one. There happens to be the picture of a gun on the screen, but neither set of values, either in repulsion or in acceptance, are true. That's what all the conflict in the world is egos arguing with each other over values that have no meaning. So when you begin to recognize the true neutrality and you take away the power that we've bestowed in our ego to judge everything and then to defend what it judges and justify having negative experiences because of what seems to have happened, you begin to wake up out of being a victim of nothing really outside of you, but you've been a victim of your own choices. We just want to blame it out there because we can't swallow the fact that, shit, you mean I've really been doing this to myself the whole stinking time? I'm the source of my distress. I'm the one who played my abandonment story. Many of you play the I'm not good enough story, I'll never get it story. All of those are our own creations, and they're an effect of the pebbles that we've dropped in all our lives. And because as soul we love each other so much, when you meet someone, there's this incredibly vast communication that goes on, and they go, oh, Marion, you're playing I'm not good enough, so I'll help you with that. You know you're not good enough. I am, but you're not. And they begin to reflect back. I mean, it's called the law of attraction. It's called a lot of things. But that's what's happening. And we think, then we get mad at them. It's really their expression of divine love that they're coming to help you play the game with the energies that you chose to play. And sometimes it shows up enough until we get disgusted. Until we start to say, shit, there's got to be another way. And then we start to change. Then we start moving into this statement. And of course, this statement and the one we had on the previous slide, there's no correlation between the two. One is as a sleep victim as you can be. This one is awake. You're literally the creator of your moment-to-moment experience. Now, when you start to shift from the victimhood to being awakened, you're going to continue to see the ripples of all the pebbles you have historically thrown in your pond coming back at you. And we love to say just one choice is adequate to change this belief. If we believed that one choice was powerful enough to do that, it can. But we've also thrown the pebbles in that my choices, because how many of us have said, I'm going to win the lottery, I'm going to win the lottery, I'm going to win the lottery. And we've trained ourselves that the power of our choices aren't very powerful. So we have to withdraw those kind of pebbles, and slowly, or in quantum leaps, we begin to see the effects of new pebbles. I'm responsible, it comes back. So instead of you're an asshole, this is my thing, let me own this. Already there's a shift there. You might still be in resistance, but at least you're going, well, I'm feeling it. If it's within you, it's yours. I mean, you're going to have to go ahead and accept. If you're feeling it within your being, in your body, it belongs to nobody else. Nobody else. So when we begin to come into wholeness, those old ripples are still, because when you drop a pebble, if you've ever done that in a still pond, those ripples seem to go on for a while. They don't just stop immediately. So as those come back, as you're coming into awakening, they're coming back to reflect to you previous choices and previous decisions. And the ego will want to go, you're failing, you're not actually waking up because all these old patterns still are arising. It's just opportunity to practice this. Oh, before I said I was a victim of this, I see it coming again. I'm not going to step in the victim role. I'm going to step in responsibility. This is mine. So welcome all that stuff back. We mastered being a victim. We mastered blaming. We mastered. How did we master it? Because we all meditated on it for decades. I mean, we meditated on I'm not good enough, or I'm unworthy, or nobody loves me, or whatever it is. We gave it focused, direct attention. That's called meditation. And as a result, we created consistent relationships, consistent events, situations, and circumstances. So this is the shift that starts to take place as you get into full authority. Then when those come back, welcome them as practice. In the Course in Miracles, he really reinforces, choose once again, choose once again. Oh, before I chose to be a victim and I chose to blame, I'm not going to do that now. I'm going to say, I and I alone are creating this experience. Someone's just yelled at me. I wonder if I can actually stay in peace, even if energy arises. Can I watch the anger arise and see it pass without having to strike back and attack? That's what starts to bring you into consciousness. That you restore the power of your being to create the experience you want to have moment to moment to moment to moment. And this experience is an inner experience. You can't control the events you want to have out there moment to moment to moment. That's a byproduct of the first paragraph, being a victim, and thinking if it changes out there, then I'll change. This is about owning your inner experience. And I remember the first time the pebble dropped in my pond, is it okay to laugh at absolutely everything? And of course, the ego mind threw up, no, not at this and this and this and this. And by the way, everybody will laugh at you or they'll attack you. How dare you, blah, 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 blah. Took a deep breath and I asked Jeshua, is it okay to laugh at absolutely everything? And he said, well, shit, I laugh about the crucifixion all the time. It is okay, except that we've been in a pool of ripples that the world says it's not okay. You are at choice about what you're at peace about. Are you willing to come into fullness and wholeness and awakening on that?
This, as you can see, changes everything. For never again can you allow yourself to feel as though you were merely a victim of unconscious forces. Never again can you look out beyond yourself and find fault with another. Never again can the energy of blame be projected from you to be dumped upon another. Never again can the energy of judgment hold sway in your holy mind. This thought, this one singular pebble, dropped into the still pool of your awareness, is absolutely essential if you would decide to awaken wholly. And this is what this hour is about. For though you would hear the word many times, that is, that which carries the vibration of truth, it can be denied as many times as it is heard. It can be allowed not, or should I say, you can choose to not allow it to settle deep into that pool of awareness, so that it affects every drop of water that makes up the wave that you are. You can hold on to the hope that you are still a victim of the world you see, that events hold some value in themselves that does not come from what you place upon them. And as long as you choose to deny the word, you cannot be set free.
We dump blame on people all the time. And we tend to do this sometimes in anonymous third parties. They should fix the potholes. Just pharmaceutical. I mean, it's just like this really broad, generic projection that, by the way, doesn't have anything that can reflect back to you. That's not true. It can't really question. So the mind loves this anonymous projection. Just throws it out into illusionary nowhere land and feels that it's It's absolved itself of responsibility and it's blamed anonymously out there. So just look when you do that. We all do it a lot. People do it collectively. I've sat in spiritual circles and had seen it done collectively. You know, terrorist. Oh, well, that's why. Whew. And then you kind of kick back with some sense of relief, and all you've done is given the power to a word that you've ascribed some value and thrown it nowhere. What's the deal with that? So just kind of start to look. I mean, you all know plenty places where we project specifically. Mates are a very convenient target simply because they're around a lot, and we tend to do it when they turn their back. Or we tend to tell our friends about our spouses when our spouses aren't around. By the way, the spouse still knows. But just look at where that projection is happening. Where there's a desire to place blame or responsibility, or even, one of the subtler ones is they should change things. They should create peace. The one person who can create peace is you, and it's an inner peace that you're asked to create. That will affect an outer peace. But we do this kind of generic projection all the time, and that's the ego mind subtly and sometimes overtly continuing to drop pebbles of victimhood over and over and over and over. And the mind settles into that and is so content that it's a victim, and actually thinks that being a victim is going to get it something. How many of us have been in a relationship where we play the victim in order to get attention? Or we play the victim in order to make someone else feel guilty or sorry?
How high do you want us to raise our hands?
You might stand for the rest of the talk. Of course, we all do that. But ultimately, deep down, there's this thought that, oh my gosh, I've separated from God. If I am a victim, when I meet God and the mythical judgment comes, God's going to feel so sorry for me that He's not going to punish me, but the ones who punished me, they're the ones that are going to get sent to hell. They're the ones that are going to get eternal damnation. It's absolutely ludicrous. There is no judgment like that at all. That's all an energy of the game. So just look where that kind of projection is going on. And the truth can be denied as many times as it's heard. Any of you that have kind of gotten on a spiritual path and you started to get some sense of truth and you try and speak it to somebody who's not spiritual, boy, you see denial happen really, really quickly. Even within yourself, as you move deeper in consciousness and all events are neutral, well, you just watch. You'll see where, oh yeah, I'm perfectly willing to see that event is neutral, but this damn flat tire that's affecting my experience is not neutral. So just look within your consciousness where that's happening, because that's an opportunity for you to go underneath there and look at, oh my gosh, I'm creating this generic, nebulous projection so that I can feel a victim. And you're only a victim to that creation of yourself, rather than owning whatever it is you're experiencing. You can hold on to the hope that you're still a victim. That's the ego's last ditch. It has to be a victim. Now, I've seen this get co-opted in spirituality quite a bit, that something happens out on the screen of consciousness, the terrorist act, and people are like wanting to recoil from that and say, no, that's not my responsibility. I didn't have anything to do with that. Well, it's all our responsibility. He'll get it to it later in this pathway, but Christ takes responsibility for the whole of creation, the whole of it, and recognizes that we share this one infinite pool of awareness, and all the events are expressions of what pebbles we're collectively dropping in there. But then I've also seen the ego take it one step further and then feel guilty because of some terrorist act that happens out there. You're at choice about your inner experience. We all share responsibility for the events of the, quote, world that seems to be out there. But the more you're fully responsible for your inner experience, the more that world will change. And it's changing incredibly rapidly. I don't know if anybody's really noticed. When we peer through the eyes of the ego, there seems to be, oh my God, everything's falling apart. You look through the eyes of Christ, everything is falling together in this miraculous quantum leap kind of thing. If you just look at stinking telephones, this has made communication no longer dependent or interdependent on mass media. We can't be manipulated as we were with information before. This is why governments over in the Middle East were falling like dominoes, because everybody was tweeting what was actually happening, and the governments couldn't keep the wool over our eyes. This is an expression within consciousness of the desire for self-responsibility. My ability to communicate how and where and when with who I wish, and have it not be limited. I mean, each of us pull our phone out and you practically call 80% of the population in the world. That's a quantum leap in consciousness from, 40 years ago? When phones were I don't know how long ago phones were getting installed, but anyway. The point is, it's happening incredibly rapidly. There is extraordinary reasons to be of really, really good cheer and get on about your awakening.
For the mind that chooses, even in a small part, to perceive itself as a victim of the world of experience, remains powerless, remains in a state that generates frustration, weakness, fear, self-doubt, unworthiness, suffering, pain, emotional pain of loneliness or separation from others, lack of fulfillment, and ultimately, the echo of the belief that you have been squeezed so tightly by fear that you are literally separated from the ocean of the mind of God. Awareness is all that you have and all that you are. Out of your use of it comes all that you choose to experience. And out of that comes your decision of how you will experience what you have called to yourself. In truth, and please listen well, no experience you have ever had has defined you or identified you. No experience you have ever chosen to create, to call to yourself, and then to value as you valued it, has ever made you higher than or less than anyone else, not even me. Though there are many who still need to believe that I am far beyond them. No experience you have ever had has proven your unworthiness to be supported, to be loved by your Creator.
We've all experienced this first paragraph over and over and over and over. So very simply put, if you're experiencing any of these things that we would determine negative, it is only because you have chosen to perceive yourself as a victim. That's a very difficult pill for the ego to swallow. That is a really uncomfortable pill for the ego to swallow, because the ego needs to be a victim in order to generate all these states of being and then be able to justify their presence and blame it on someone else or something else. And he talks about in the second paragraph that no matter when it has happened, it hasn't changed the nature of what you are and what your being is. And he describes it, awareness is all that you have and it's all that you are. We're not these bodies. These bodies are appearing in the infinite field of our awareness. The body will disappear from the field of your awareness, but your field of awareness will remain forever unchanged throughout eternity. But we get to fill it with all kinds of experiences, including the experience of this realm and this world where we seem to be bodies. And we become so identified with the body that we've forgotten the truth of who we are. But everyone in this room would confess, I'm aware. You might think it's I as the body, named John Mark, with my past story of blah, 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 is what's aware. But that's not what's aware. Awareness itself is what is aware. The mind of presence of the mind of God is what awareness is. It is sourced and contained within itself. But out of our use of awareness comes our experience. And the freedom given to us is even proven by the dream of separation. That's the real joke of the whole thing. Is that the freedom to have the experience that we are not at one with all of creation is the proof that we are able to create a facsimile of any experience, and it's okay, and awareness is not withdrawn. God does not judge us and actually separate from us. It's been true all along, and it will remain true forevermore. Even when we sleep and we perceive that we're unconscious, we wake up and go, I slept. We're aware all the time. But we're just not aware that we are awareness. We think we're the thing that arises within awareness. So when you wake up to what you are, you can be present with the most incredible energy of rage, even when it overcomes the body, the feeling state, and you will know, anger is present in the field of my awareness. And as this spacious, vast awareness, you'll simply watch it arise, you'll watch it pass, and you'll watch it leave, and the pool remains. The awareness remains. So just if you look at the pool, there's this perfectly still pool, you drop this pebble in, experience ripples out, hits the edges, comes back. But what happens to the pool? Nothing really, and it comes back to stillness, waiting for the next pebble. And you see, the pool never rejects any pebble. If you throw the I'm separate from God, the pond doesn't like all of a sudden freeze and not let that pebble in. The symbol of the pool of awareness is God's unconditional love, unconditional acceptance. To use the prodigal son story, the freedom, the inheritance given the son to go create whatever experience the son wanted to have. And we've all done it masterfully. And not a one of us in here is any better at it than anybody else. It takes just as much power to create unworthiness as it does to create worthiness. It takes just as much power to create poverty as it does to create wealth. It takes just as much power to create one victim role, versus another. And we're all doing it. He said, the least among you are equal to the greatest. We're all using the same faculty, which is this pool of infinite awareness that we are in truth, and a faculty within that called choice. And from that we create experience upon experience upon experience throughout all eternity. In truth, and please listen well, no experience you have ever had has defined or identified you. You may have had experiences that defined or identified the body and what experiences it went through, but say again, that is not you. You can't define awareness. We can call it awareness, we can call it pure being, we can call it the kingdom of heaven, we can call it your Buddha nature, we can call it the Tao, we can call it nothing. But just right now, each one of us, you can call it mind. In this pathway, he kind of refers to it as mind. So a shitty idea comes through your mind. Well, it doesn't hurt your mind. In the next moment, a lovely idea comes. Mind isn't affected by what appears to be happening within it. But we can become identified with it and then have really authentic experiences, but we've never left heaven. We've never left this pool of awareness. It's only because it's present that we're even able to create the experiences within it. So that one paragraph, if you're struggling a lot, you can print that out, and every time you're experiencing one of those things, it's a reminder that somewhere I have perceived myself a victim, and I think I can't choose to feel and experience differently than what I am. And that doesn't necessarily mean an emotion leaves. It means you take a step back and you have a different relationship with that emotion that's present. Because anger is an energy. Love is an energy. We just said we're going to really like one and we're going to push away the other. They're both expressions of infinite possibility. The pool of awareness doesn't reject the anger pebble and beg for more love pebbles. It just dutifully accepts the pebble and creates the experience. No experience you have ever had has proven your unworthiness to be supported by the love of your Creator. None of us have ever lost our ability to choose. None of us have ever lost our ability to throw pebbles, and the pool has never, and you recognize, can never reject any pebble you drop in it. You know, Jeshua, before his own awakening, he started throwing some really big pebbles. I and the Father are one. That's a big friggin' pebble. Because that was saying he is that which is transcendent of all the experience, that all of creation is arising within him. He drops that pebble in this pathway a bunch. Each of you are free to drop that pebble. How many times a day would you like to drop that pebble? I mean, we spend all day almost thinking. Well, what if your thought was, I and the Father are one, instead of, fuck, I screwed up again. I always get it wrong. Why does this always work out? This is a story of my stinking life. Whatever they are, you're creating all day long. You're throwing pebbles all day long. Get conscious about them and choose again. And if you throw a shitty pebble, don't judge yourself, because that's just throwing a dozen more after it. Just stop and choose, what would I have instead, and throw it. And throw it with great joy. And keep throwing it. And everybody that you've given pebbles and invited them over to throw them in your pond, we invite all our unworthy friends over, our divorcee friends, or people who've had similar kind of vibrational experiences, and we get together and we collectively throw pebbles, called support groups. It's not really supporting much, certainly not contributing much to awakening. We have to be responsible for our own state of being. In truth, it's the only thing that you are responsible for.
And therefore, you remain as you are created to be, a wave filled with the very self-same power as the ocean itself. A wave, a soul, a web of relationship, arising from the holy mind of God with the momentum to flow on forever, with the freedom to create, by deciding which vibrations you will allow to settle in and become part of you, which thoughts you will defend, which perceptions you will cleave unto. You are then eternally a creator, and this is the one thing that you have no free will about. You can never decide to be a non-participant in the very mystery of creation's extension, because when you hold the thought, I refuse to participate in God's creation, you have literally created the perception, and therefore the experience, of yourself as being outside or separate from creation itself. You've created the insane emotion of trying to separate the wave from the ocean itself, and you will create the perception of separation even though nothing in reality has been effected.
So when I was walking my pathway and I began to get pretty distressed about the fact that I had been doing this to myself, and I was seeing that I had so habituated throwing these separating thoughts, as I went to Jeshua, I was like, dude, I want to surrender my ability to choose fear. I want to surrender my ability to choose for separation. He said, you can't. You can't. You're an infinite creator, and to do so would limit your freedom. And I can't take that away from you. And even if you desired, you can't take that away from you. You simply have to master being conscious and awake to the choices that you make and make them consistently. That we can't give up the power that we have as the creator that we are. There's no way. Even if you say, I'm not going to do anything, well, you're throwing pebbles if I'm not doing anything. You're creating an experience of not doing anything. It's impossible to not be creating as we were created to be. So, of course, that was an ego ploy to try and be even less powerful, perceived, than I already was. And I appreciated that he was like, dude, sorry, can't take it away, and your experiences are the result of the fact that you mastered those thoughts for separation. And you mastered the idea that it's hard to change your mind. And you mastered the idea that this is going to take a long time and it's going to be painful. Dang. I was like, holy cow. So I asked him, can it be quick? Can it be painless? And can it be fun? And he said, well, it can be quick because the truth is true right now. You're already doing it. So that doesn't need to take any time for you to realize. It may seem to take time for you to embody. Does it need to be painful? No. You're a creator. That's God's will. If you've experienced pain, it's only because you created it. And can it be fun? Well, I would certainly hope so. This is an eternal creation. So my pathway was largely unique compared to a lot of other people that I've interacted with because I got this early on and recognized, oh, it's only going to seem to happen in the future if I create that belief. So I rested in, this is the truth right now. Am I awake to what my inner experience is and absolutely responsible for it? That's getting pretty damn awake. And it's just crazy to think that the ocean, the wave can separate itself from the ocean. I mean, where's it going to go? Where does the wave lift itself from the ocean and where does it go? It's nuts. We can't do it, but we're really good at dropping pebbles for so long that we believe we have.
And why is this important? Because you see, the process of healing is not difficult. It requires only your willingness to accept that you are the effect of the Creator's desire to create like unto itself, as a wave is the effect of the ocean's desire to express itself in a new way, a new form, and to bring a uniqueness to every wave that arises from its mysterious depths. Surrender, then, is the process in which you finally relent. You give up resisting the fact of your very existence. You stop whining about it. You stop lamenting it. You stop worrying about it. You make the decision to get on with being alive. And what is alive about you? Let's try that again. And what is alive about you is going to be alive forever. And there is no place to hide and nowhere to go. When you have dropped that pebble into the mind, I am not a victim of the world I see. I am a ceaseless creator, made and of one substance with my Creator itself.
Because you see, the process of healing is not difficult. Just because lots of other people have chosen that their healing process be difficult and take a long time does not establish that that is the truth of creation. It need not be difficult, and if you're experiencing it, it's because you're now making your spiritual awakening. You're a victim of the process that you believe you have to go through. All the while creating the very process that you think you're going through, creating the experiences you think you're experiencing. We've been doing it all the time. It can seem to take time, but it can happen very, very rapidly, and it need not be difficult. Because you can allow, when you self-realize or experience yourself as the infinite pool of awareness, you can allow things to come and go and be just as they are. And there's a lot of energy around this. Let things be as they are. And we believe that the ego's definitions and values of what it sees is what they are. There's global warming. We think that's what it is because that's what the mind thinks. Let it be as it is. I don't know what's going on. It's a mystery. If you remove all judgment from it, if you remove all definition from it, and you see it as valueless, as neutral, you don't know what's going on. So there's no need to be uptight about it one way or another. That's how you kind of come to peace. And you're willing to accept that you are the effect of the Creator's desire to create like unto itself. And Yeshua's made this very clear that we're the offspring with the full inheritance to create as the Creator creates. Always have been, always will be. That's big. I mean, it's cosmically, infinitely big. And that's what we're waking up to. Surrender is then the process where you finally relent to giving up resistance about the fact of your very existence. And you accept, I'm this infinite pool of awareness that allows all pebbles, that trusts all pebbles, that effortlessly embraces all pebbles, that is forever transcendent of all pebbles. And by the way, I didn't create awareness. The thought of I is this idea I created within it. So that's why I need do nothing, because I couldn't create creation. I'm only creating with the creation that I was extended. I mean, it gets so damn simple, our thinking minds can't even believe it. Enlightenment is too simple for the mind to understand. I am not a victim of the world I see. I am a ceaseless creator made and of one substance of the Creator itself. On lesson 2 or 3 of this pathway, Jeshua said he chose the crucifixion because there's a whole lot of energy around spirituality that he was a victim of the crucifixion. And he's saying, nope, I wasn't a victim of anything. I chose to have that happen, to prove that death was unreal. That's a pretty stinking good gift for the rest of us. But we have to give up this energy that he was in some way attacked. He used the conscious awareness of the truth of what he was to create a demonstration so powerful that it would be beyond denial. But all the energy of humanity went into the focus of the victimhood about it and not the transcendence of it. Because that's the game that we were playing. It's not unusual that it went that way. And then churches and all kinds of things arose and who now had values to place on it. And before you know it, we were off to the races of taking those teachings and diverting them right back into victimhood. Which, born in sin, it's like, damn, I don't even have conscious awareness of that and I'm already wrong. Well, that's kind of what we buy into, but it's not true. And the more you wake up, you'll begin to see other seeming lifetimes or other experiences that you created in the infinite pool of your consciousness. Because we've been doing it eternally, and that's all we've ever been doing and all we ever will do. So, one of the things we give up is resisting resistance. Because the pool doesn't resist. The pool doesn't resist any pebble. It's that we throw another pebble resisting that there seemed to be a pebble before it. I mean, we're creating our own resistance by being resistant to resistance. I mean, it's one of the last things. You get to the futility of forgiveness and the give up resisting resistance. Because that's just fueling this misidentification that we're the things, the ripples on the pond instead of the whole thing. I'll get to your question. Oh, great. I'm glad I heard it.
Then indeed the questions begin to take a different shape. You begin to use the power of your awareness to deliberately and selectively choose which vibrations, which webs of relationship you're going to pull into your field of awareness, which ones you're going to resonate with, and which ones you're going to let dissolve from your mind, from your awareness. And if you have held on to a thought of smallness, a thought of lack, a thought of powerlessness, now you begin to see that it's perfectly neutral, perfectly safe to look upon everything you've ever created and experienced and say, "'Tis very good, and now I'm done with it. What's next? What pebbles can I drop into my holy mind in this very moment? Can I look upon the current experience I'm having and see that it's nothing but the effect, the ripple of a pebble or a thought that I dropped into my mind so long ago that I don't even remember it? Can I look upon those events that are unfolding around me? And if they're unfolding in your body, trust me, that's still around you, for you are much more than just the body. Can I begin now, and am I willing now, to drop a different pebble into the still and infinite clarity of the pool of awareness That is what is alive about me always. Dare I think a different thought? Dare I drop such a pebble into my consciousness?
Jeshua will mention it later in this pathway. The first time he dropped I and the Father are one pebble into his consciousness, the experience he had about it. I mean, he's clearly describing this energy thing, and it felt really good, and it was like, wow, I think I might want to play with that a little bit. Because that was the truth resonating back and saying, yes, that is the truth of what's going on. So all of our experience is the effect of the power that we've always had. Making ourselves powerless is one of the most mysterious, most miraculous effects of creation itself. That we could actually perceive that we were weak and that we were small and that we weren't what we really are in truth. And it's perfectly good to look upon everything you've experienced. Everything. So you take the database in your mind that has great experiences, horrific experiences, you're one in the middle of the one you want more of, and you label them all equally as 'tis very good. I and I alone have created. Out of infinite possibilities and infinite freedom, and a whole lot of other beings chose to play the same game, and so be it. 'Tis very, very good. If you can do that with full authenticity and cross the bridge of forgiveness, you will never need to go back and process a previous lifetime or process a previous event or go back and rebirth or anything else. Unless, of course, you believe that all those processes are required. Then just own, I'm creating a process of having to come to a process about what I'm already creating as a process. I mean, when you really get this, you recognize it doesn't need to take time. We're not trying to get back to a mythical state of perfection and we've tainted it and we've got to alter it. We're coming back to the conscious awareness that we're creators of our experience and we always have been. And it's all okay. We did it out of infinite freedom to explore infinite variation in creation. And it's what we'll always be doing. And he's saying, even the stuff you don't remember. None of us here remember the choice to play the game of separation. None of us, well, unless you've woken up a lot, don't remember choosing the family and everything else that you were going to incarnate to play the specific vibrations you chose to play. Just because you don't remember choosing it doesn't mean it's not there. If you're willing to accept that an experience can only be happening because of pebbles that I've dropped, you'll find your proof right there. In your moment-to-moment experience, you'll be clear, oh my gosh, I have chosen to allow a relationship with another being to affect. It doesn't matter when you might have first chose it, you're choosing it right there. It's the ego that says, oh my gosh, I got to go back and try and rewrite history rather than going, oh, I get it. I'll stop doing that now and move on. That's when you can kind of rest upon and look upon it all and say it's very good. You'll come to such a profound and infinite gratitude for the absolute limitlessness and freedom with which you have always been creating. And that it was never retracted, whether you were holy or whether you are a sinner or a saint. You'll know that it was always given fully. And you've always been at it, and you will set the rest of the world free because you'll know every one of them is Christ creating. They may be creating dreams, sleepy dreams. They may be creating unconsciously. They may be saying they're a victim. They may be saying everything under the sun. But they're the only ones dropping their pebbles. They're sovereign, and they always have been, and they always will be. Set them free and get about managing, responding to, being creative about what you drop in your pond. And I didn't even know what pebbles to drop in my pond. But Jeshua dropped this one in. I wonder if I could ask my soul, my guide, my higher self, I wonder what's the best pebble I could drop in my pond right now. Rather than relying on your little tiny thinking mind that thinks it's its past, you open up and go, I'm not even smart enough to know which question to ask. So I'll even ask, what would be the greatest question for me to ask? And I would hear, I wonder what it would be like to be a complete master of my pool of awareness. I wonder what it would be like to have absolute sovereign responsibility, that no one has ever done anything to me, that I created my own experience looking at pictures on a movie screen. So you don't even have to be wise enough to know really big pebbles to drop in your pond. If you open, they'll come from your own self. That part of yourself which never did dream. The part of awareness which has always been present. Wow, that's really cool.
And so what pebbles could they be? I think I'll become a world savior, a Christ. What would that be like? What vibrations would I need to let go out of my life, and which ones would I need to open to? What would it feel like? What would I see as I look out through the field of my awareness at creation? I think I'll allow myself to be able to commune with any web of relationship, any soul, any being that exists on any plane of creation. Why, perhaps I'll even allow myself to know that I can be in communion with Jeshua ben Yosef. How wealthy can I become in this third-dimensional reality? How many golden coins could I possibly create in order to give them away to others? How many places on the planet could I take a body and plop it down in the span of one short physical life? How many beings could I say I love you to? How big can I make my heart be? How deep can I experience peace?
Yeah, drop those pebbles and find out for yourself. I mean, he starts off, I think I'll become a world savior of Christ. By the way, everyone already is. But it's tantamount in this world to claiming, I am Christ. Oh my God, that's the biggest ego on the whole planet. All those dreaming minds say, no, you can't wake up because we're playing sleepy. Of course you can wake up. Everyone is the Christ. You can't deny that. I mean, you can deny it, but you're still using the power of your Christedness to deny it. So you're still proving that you're a co-creator, that you're a creator, just like the Creator extended us. I could be in communion with any relationship, any soul, any being across all expressions of creation. How many of you hold the belief that that might be possible after death? Well, that's because those are the pebbles we dropped in because we wanted to believe we were limited to the five senses along this, related to this form. We narrowed our consciousness down like holding a magnifying glass up to the sun and creating a very tiny little powerful spot. Consciousness is absolutely unlimited. There is no rule that says anything is impossible except the rules that you hold in your mind. And we hold them so subtly, so unconsciously. I mean, it's like if I take this and drop it, we would say, oh, well, that's gravity. That's a law. It drops because we all collectively think it's going to drop. That's why Jeshua had some incredibly unbelievable, defy all laws of physics miracles. Because he was playing in the pool of his consciousness. Did he need to wait on God to do it? He was doing it. When God said to him, you are my son in whom I'm very well pleased, any of you now could open up to God and ask that question, and you would hear, if you're truly open, behold, you are indeed my son or daughter, and I am eternally well pleased. What would you like to play with now? But we operate in this state of consciousness that we're bound by our past, or we're bound by the ideas that our mind holds, and we believe that it's hard to change our mind. Well, then start dropping the pebbles that My mind's unlimited, and it changes like that. That the power of my choice as the child of God has immediate impact. You're creating every aspect of your experience. There is nothing or anyone outside of you that's doing that for you. So if you can't think of some big pebbles, He just gave you some in the form of questions. You could start to play with those. You're all here because you dropped pebbles in. I want to wake up from this stinking game. So it's already working. Many of you have, despite the fact that your dross has had to come up, are experiencing a lot more peace and joy. And if you have fear of being a Christ and saying as much, only the effects of the pebbles you've dropped in your pond. Those don't need to be there either.
The realm of possibilities is as infinite as you are. And the ones you select and choose are the ones that will create the web of relationships that you will call your life, your experience, even right down to the quality of how you will experience the transition mistakenly called death in your world. Would you call it a death when you leave one room and close the door behind you and step into another room? Of course not. You just say, I was there, now I am here. That is all that truly occurs when the molecules you've called to yourself are unglued because you release your value of them. And their constituents, their parts, dissolve back into the dust or the energy field of the planet. You merely leave one room and step into another. What I call you to in this hour is this: be willing to allow the pebbles to be dropped into your field or pool of awareness that carries the energy of the thought, from this moment forward, I elect to birth a Christ and thereby learn what Christ is.
I love this last one. From this moment forward, I elect to birth a Christ, and thereby I will learn what Christ is. Because the ego will tell you, I can't be Christ because I don't know what it is. And He's saying, make the choice, and then the experience comes as effect of the choice. Nothing can come without the effect of choice. And I hear all these people all the time, when I wake up. Okay, well, who knows when that's going to be? Because they've already chosen to deny the truth that's true now. They all this energy about future, when this happens, when this happens, when this happens, is taking a current moment power pebble and throwing it in and saying it has no power. And we do this kind of thing all the time. So I elect to birth a Christ, and He challenged me to do that. Are you willing to, not knowing what that is? I said, sure, why not? Because I was willing to believe this. If I didn't like it, I could go back to my pile of shitty pebbles. You're not going to lose the ability to do that if you choose. You can't forfeit the choice for any experience or any thought. You may choose, you may master a vibration that doesn't allow lower vibrations in, but you can't actually banish them from creation. You can't eliminate a possibility amongst infinite possibilities. And that's really cool. And thereby I'll learn what Christ is. And I can tell you from my own experience, I never would have had a clue. And if I would have gone with what the ego was telling me that you have to learn first, I never would have gotten anywhere except in a whole bunch of more delay stuff. Delay, 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 delay. And this business about death, I was there and now I'm here. If you truly knew that, would you really be distressed about a loved one who walked from one room to another? Especially if you've dropped pebbles that said, that doesn't mean you're not in communion and communication with them. What's all the distress about death? The molecules of our body are unglued because you release your value on them. It's our desire, because we're valuing this experience out of infinite possibilities, that holds the body together. So no one seems to die without the choice to retract the energy away from the body. It may not be conscious in their thinking mind, but on the level of soul, there are no accidents. We make them look a lot like accidents so that we can perpetuate this fear around death. But every soul is absolutely sovereign for the moment of its birth and the moment of its walking from one room to another. Just as all of us right here would make a choice to get up and walk in the kitchen. Nobody's forcing you to do it. When we remove value from their constituent parts, they dissolve back. That's the whole ashes to ashes and dust to dust. You remain. You walk out of a room of seeming three-dimensional time and space, and you move on to another experience. That's all it is. And it was the same thing when we walked into the room of third-dimensional, seemingly physical reality. We were at choice about every bit of that. And I just think it's so cool that we can play a game of seeming to not be at choice about what we're always at choice about. That's just fascinating.
And your experience becomes the unfolding learning of what Christ is. And when that learning completes itself, you discover that what you have learned is what you are created to be. And you have returned full circle. The prodigal son, journeying through the field of all possibilities, has returned as the awakened Christ and has taken up his or her rightful place at the right hand of the Creator. What does all this symbology mean? It just means that you finally think only with your right-mindedness. You think as God thinks, and God thinks lovingly. God thinks infinitely, timelessly, patiently, certainly, and above all, God thinks playfully, full of play. When you feel welling up within you such love and such joy that you can hardly contain it, don't you start dancing and moving the body about and going, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with all this energy? And you call your friends and say, let's have a party. Let's go to a movie. Let's create a delicious feast. Wow, who could I write a letter to? Oh, who could I send flowers to?
Bam! All the joy you can ever imagine awaits you because you're the one who throws joy pebbles in your pond. You and you alone. We fear that power because we have experienced what seems like the abdication of that power. But paradoxically, it's the mastery of the power to create the experience of fear that's the proof of how powerful we've always been. Wake up to that and create consciously. It's just so stinking exciting. So God thinks lovingly, infinitely, timelessly, patiently, and certainly. So when you're in doubt, you're not thinking with your right mind, the mind of God. You're not creating as God creates. When you string it out in time, that some future event or some past event, you're not thinking like God. He gets to it in the last lesson. God lives in the question, what is it I truly desire right now? And that's it. And we create that experience, and then the next moment, what would I like right now? What would I like right now? What would I like right now? And you wake up to this and you can't help but be excited. It's just this constant flow of this unconditional, uncaused joy, causeless joy. And you're free to take that energy and put it into absolutely any and everything you want. And that's all we've been doing when we slept. We even put the pebble in. I won't be aware that I'm doing this experience from a place of joy, from a place of my infinite creative capacity. This will just decimate and shatter the ego's thought system if you truly are willing to abide in this consciousness. Whew. And God thinks playfully, full of play, that creation is nothing but play. And that play doesn't start when you leave the room of this realm. It can start anytime you choose. Anytime you choose. But this will force you to abandon all your highly valued spiritual concepts. The ego will drop a bunch of worldly concepts, but then it begins to replace it with a bunch of spiritual concepts that talk about still rooted in time, still rooted in later, still rooted in past, still rooted in inequity, still rooted in all kinds of stuff. And none of that's true. Absolutely none of it. What are you going to do with all that energy? Because a lot of that energy is being diverted into your experience of not being in joy. You know how much energy it takes to not be in joy? A lot more than it takes to be in joy.
Don't you become caught up in the desire to let some energy expand out of you to touch all parts of your creation? Well, imagine being God, infinite, vast, without a top or a bottom or a left or a right, filled with nothing but pure, unconditional, radiant love. Can you imagine being able to contain yourself and say, oh well, I think I'll just sit here in this and not let anybody notice it? No. God said, let there be light. And it was very good. And He looked upon all of creation, which literally means not just this planet, but all of an infinite number of creations of dimension upon dimension upon dimension, and all little webs of relationship called souls that He brought into existence in one split second and said, oh, it is very good. This is my play, and my joy, and my love, and my aliveness has poured forth and overflowed my grand being and brought forth into manifest creation you.
Bam! That's friggin' cool. No hell and damnation here. No judgment from God at all. Infinite dimension upon infinite dimension upon infinite dimension. Play upon play upon play upon play. Let there be light could really be God dropping the action across infinite dimensions and bam! Gives forth to all kinds of possibilities. Jeshua showed me an image one time of light bodies and this seemingly infinite roll of Rolodexes that were experiences. And a light body would come to it and spin it and almost grab one randomly and off in incredible joy. To have yet another experience. Play upon play upon play upon play. And we have this crazy idea that we're like on some incredibly long time and space journey to transcend a realm. Nuts. But if we hold a cherished belief like that and we don't throw a pebble in the pond and says, I'm going to think like God thinks. I'm going to think without limitation. I'm going to think timelessly. I'm not going to think it's going to take me time to learn what I really am or time to awaken to what the truth is. You know, he says it's a very short journey to the truth when you begin with the truth. What do you think he meant when he said, seek first the kingdom? Seek first to think like God thinks. I'm a limitless being at choice for what I'm creating. What do I want now? Rather than, this is going to take forever. I don't know. I haven't done enough mudras today. I haven't, didn't quite have my yoga posture. I held it for 1 second too little, and oh shit, that kind of screwed my mojo up. I mean, just look at the things you empower to be self-limiting thoughts within your being. All absolutely unnecessary and self-created. And just because everybody around you thinks that that's the case doesn't make it true. Jeshua has shared that when he turned away from all the teachers in the world and decided he was going to live this truth, and every master was saying it took time. You have to practice more. You have to do more of this. You have to do more of that, because they were so rooted in that consciousness. And he just went, if I'm the holy child of God, created like my Creator, like God, I'm going to live in that consciousness and just see what happens. And I and the Father are one started dropping in. If I can create like God, well, look at how God creates. That must be available infinitely within consciousness to do so consciously. So consciousness is what we're self-creating with. And everything around us is an idea. Every chair that you're sitting on, everything was an idea before it was expressed in manifestation. We just forgot that we're the infinite thing in which all ideas arise. All of creation is expressed. In the Course in Miracles it says there's one thing we must learn, that there is nothing outside of you. That sounds like this description of God. Infinite, vast, no top, no bottom, no left, no right, filled with pure, unconditional, radiant love. What would your life be like if you knew that now and never forgot it? Do you think it would change a little bit? Somebody came to see me one time and they were distressed because, oh shit, I've started my spiritual path kind of late. I might not have enough time to finish it. I'm like, finish it? The truth is true now. How long are you going to take denying it? You can stop denying it now. Wow, this is so exciting.
You, each and every you of you, made of the very substance of that overwhelming love and playfulness, the power to create infinitely, and thereby to extend creation itself. That is who you are. And that is where you find yourself now, and now forever. You will never escape it. Mastery comes when fear has been completely dissolved. And fear is dissolved not by fearing it, not by hating it, not by judging it, but by looking upon it with perfect innocence, embraced in the same way that a scientist would watch the ripples of a little pebble that's been dropped into a pool of water to see how they've created other ripples and other temporary disturbances in the field or the surface of the water. As you look within and notice the things you've become afraid of, and how fear has constricted your creativity, your joy, your playfulness, your unlimitedness, you merely look with innocence and wonder and say, oh, I see how that ripple has affected the creation that I call my life. Do I like it? Not anymore. Good. I think I'll be rid of that. What can I replace it with?
Fear is dissolved not by fearing it. We've talked about this before. I've asked how many people fear fear. Whew, I fear fear. Well, fuck, that's the problem. It's not fear. There's nothing wrong with fear. It's our fear of fear which keeps us preemptively avoiding experiences in the future. Not by hating it. I have heard the ego ripped to shreds. You might as well grab a hammer and just bang yourself. Not by judging it. Judgment's the problem. I've gone to course groups and we sit in there and judge the ego. Oh, well, I don't judge anything but the ego. Well, that's still judgment. But rather to look upon it with perfect innocence. The ego was our creation. Behold, it is very good. It gave rise to potentials of experience in infinite possibilities that we could not have experienced otherwise. Love it. And by love it, I don't mean you want more of it. I mean love it as the creation that you created. Do you want it anymore? I don't think so. So great, set it down. It's not judgment and condemnation. It's a choice. You can choose without judgment. Judgment always involves condemnation, that's bad. You're not going to wake up from the ego so long as you think it's bad. Because you'll always be pushing against it. When you finally recognize that the love that's transcendent that you are embraces all things, you will reach out in great gratitude and welcome back to yourself the part of yourself that you created and then tried to push away. And in that embrace will it begin to dissolve? Will its power begin to be transmuted to be used to create whatever else you might like? Very good stuff. Fear has constricted your creativity, your joy, your playfulness, and your unlimitedness. How many of us will think, gosh, I just got this inspiration to paint. Well, I don't know how to paint. I'm going to have to go to a painting class. I'm going to have to go learn from someone else. So he gives us this lesson in this pathway to spend 5 minutes abiding as Christ. Everything that I look upon is my creation. Everything in the field of my experience is my creation. Sit in nature and look and go, behold, this has arisen from within the mind of Christ. That's the expression of our creativity. If you start to open to that truth, you can begin to be informed by that level of creative consciousness rather than the little part of you that says, oh, I'm good at crochet, but I can't do anything else. All the technology in the world that we look upon and go, man, those are really smart people that do that. That's our one infinite pool of awareness, giving rise to creation upon creation upon creation upon creation. So it's a huge shift in consciousness that happens. It's a huge, and if your mind will protest. Your mind will go, I didn't create that. But if you want to stay rooted in that little tiny I, then you'll always be separate from the creative power that is the truth of what we are. You have to really be willing to take God's word for it, or take Jesus' word for it for a bit, and say, well, let me just see what happens. Let me just really do this consciously and see what happens. So that practice he gives about being present for 5 minutes is just trying to get you to at least practice for 5 minutes. And then the 5 becomes 8, and then the 8 becomes 20. And then before you know it, you're present and conscious with what's happening all the time. I'll see how that ripple has affected the creation that I call my life, and I'll just ask, do I want it anymore? If the answer is no, then let it go. And then you may see all the attachments and fears you have to letting that go. Many of us have got great identities around our stuff. And we cherish them in ways we're not really conscious of. The thought will come and say, oh, I don't have any attachments. And we'll actually believe it. And then the next minute, we're protecting all our attachments. And we don't see the contradiction. You got to step back there and get conscious and be aware and see it. Whew. We can't ever get away from the truth of what we are. We're just invited, and that's all it is. It's an invitation to wake up and embody that consciously here and now. Nobody has to. And no one in the world, all of us included, that's choosing to dream and deny the truth of what they are, they're not doing anything wrong or anything bad. They're using their absolute freedom. When the soul has decided, I want to wake up, it's going to find its way to A Course in Miracles or a Way of Mastery, or something's going to happen to start moving it to consciousness as rapidly as that soul is ready to move. It's up to you. Drop new pebbles or not. It's all okay. Next week we will complete the deepening. You even make up new words. We'll complete the deepening of Lesson 8, dropping pebbles into the pool of awareness. Cool. So be conscious of what you put in your pool, because you're creating the life that you're living as a result. And a couple paragraphs back, he said about how much money could I have? How much? None of it's wrong. None of it's bad. Get rid of all the ideas that says spirituality means being aesthetic and pushing the world away. Who said that's true? Who said that's the way it has to be? Not God's way. Just because somebody woke up by doing that doesn't now make it the only way. Each and every one of you are creating your own experience, even of awakening. Will it be a path of joy and ease, or will it be one of toil and effort? It's up to you. You're going to wake up to the same power that's been there all along, so you might as well go joyfully or not. Any questions or comments tonight? I feel a stillness in the room, and that feels good. I feel minds opening with this, holy shit, could this be true? Yes, it's true. If anyone would like to quicken your journey of remembrance, I'm happy to join with you. I've been doing this thing, I had been calling it channeled listening, but I got the prompt today that it's really a joining in listening. Anyway, Skype, FaceTime, whatever, you're welcome to come see me. If you want one who wakes or myself, I guess we're one and the same. Unless Marion, you want to be available too. To come to a clerk shop in your area, I'm going to be in, what state is that? New Hampshire? New Hampshire in April and maybe March in Wisconsin. Let's see what we got here. Oh, love offering. I don't know whether your mind may have liked the love that got dished out here tonight, but it's love nonetheless. It's truth nonetheless. If your mind doesn't believe it, it's okay. I mean, we condition our minds not to. But are you willing to at least contemplate, what if that's true? Just what if that's true? And what if I were to become fully conscious of what I'm dropping in my pond and owning completely my experience? How might your life be different? Might be worthwhile. But if you're here and you want to make a love offering, in the other side of the fireplace is a basket. Put it in there. If it overflows, just keep it overflowing. Those of you who are watching online, you can go to onewhowakes.org. In the upper right-hand corner is a give button. Click that and you can make your donation online. When I come to do this work, all of creation comes. Because I am that one just as you are. And it all comes in support of each and every one of you and each and every one of your sovereignty. It's a whole lot more fun to create consciously than unconsciously. We love you with an absolutely infinite love. We celebrate all your creations. All of them, regardless of what they were. And we welcome you into remembrance. Infinite love and perfect peace. Good night. That's it. I'd love hugs on the way out if you're willing. If not, you might go out the kitchen.